Why Japan's semiconductor industry, once the most powerful in the world, failed? In the 1980s, Japan was at the very top of the semiconductor industry. Companies like NEC, Toshiba, and Hitachi controlled the global markets. But after trade disputes with the US, rising competition from South Korea and Taiwan, and Japan's own structural problems, the industry collapsed. Now, with the US-Japan allies trying to build secure chip supply chains against China, Japan is searching for a revival. Do not forget to subscribe for more content like this. Let's talk about the golden era of Japanese semiconductors. Back in the 1970s and 1980s, Japan's semiconductor industry was unstoppable and powerful. Companies like NEC, Toshiba, Hitachi, Fujitsu, and Sony were all pushing for hard electronics. They needed chips for TV, radio, VCR, cameras, and even computers. To secure these supplies, Japanese companies did not design just chips. They built the factories, the materials, and even their own equipment. This was called vertical integration, and it means that Japan could control the whole process from designing all the way to finished products. At the same time, memory chips, especially DRAM, were the most important products. DRAM is simple in design but very difficult to mass produce. The key to winning was achieving high yield, meaning that how many chips on a wafer actually works. Japanese factories were mastered at process control, clean rooms, and automation. By keeping their fabs running for 24 hours 7 days and to improve quality step by step, Japanese companies pulled ahead of the United States in memory production. In 1988, Japan controlled 50.3% of the world's semiconductor industry, while the United States held only 36.8%. Out of the 10 semiconductor companies in the world by sales, 6 were Japanese, including NEC and Toshiba. For the moment of history, Japan was the leader in chips. But then comes the point, the United States was not happy with Japan's dominance in semiconductor industry. American companies accused Japanese firms of selling memory chips beyond cost and locking foreign players out of Japan's market. Under pressure, the Japanese government signed their 1986 US-Japan Semiconductor Agreement. So the deal forced Japan to open its market to foreign chips. As a result, the share of foreign-made semiconductors in Japan rose from just 10% to 20%. At the same time, US shifted its focus. Instead of competing in DRAM, American companies invested more in microprocessors, design software, and fabless design. That sets the stage for new champions like Intel, Qualcomm, and later Nvidia. Meanwhile, Japan doubled down on memory. This strategy could soon backfire. The environment surrounding Japan's company became extremely challenging. First, DRAM became a brutal commodity. Prices collapsed every few years due to oversupply. Korean companies like Samsung, later Micron, and Hynix used huge investment and government backing to survive the price crashes. Japanese firms, smaller and fragmented, could not keep up with the level of spending. Second, the semiconductor industry itself changed. The rise of fabless companies designed like Qualcomm and Broadcom and the pure foundries like TSMC in Taiwan reshaped the industry. Instead of making everything in-house, companies now outsource the manufacturing to foundries. Japanese companies may prefer the old vertically integrated model, were slow to adapt. This means that they missed the smartphone and mobile boom. Third, the cost of new fabs exploded. Every new generation of chips required billions of dollars in new tools, larger clean rooms, and advanced lithography. To stay at the cutting edge, you need a massive and continuous capital. Japanese companies were hurt by 1990s financial crisis and became cautious. They could not match the aggressive single-minded investment of TSMC and Samsung. Fourth, the management and coordination issues. Japan has many semiconductor players, but no single champion like Korea, Samsung, and Taiwan TSMC. Japan industry was fragmented. Companies competed on each other instead of consolidating, which made it very hard to achieve global scales. And finally, geopolitics and currency problems. The rise of the yen after Plaza Accord made Japan's exports more expensive. The US trade friction further pushed the global buyers to diversify away from Japanese supply. All these factories combined by the year 2000, Japan's semiconductor industry share had collapsed. But now, it would be wrong to say Japan completely failed. Even though it's in decline, Japan held onto some critical advantages. First, the materials. Japanese companies like JSR and Shin-Etsu become world leaders in photoresist, silicon wafers, and specialty chemicals. They are essential for chip making, and Japan are still supplying for half the world needs in some categories. Second, supply. Nikon and Canon competed with ASML in lithography for a long time, but Japan still made essential deposition and etching tools. Third, sensors and specialty chips. Sony, for example, became a global leader in CMOS image sensor, which power the cameras in iPhones and many other devices. Renesas became a leader in automotive microcontrollers. So Japan lost leadership in mainstream DRAM and advanced logic, but it stayed important in the supply chain. The question is now, can Japan regain its former glory? The short answer is maybe not the same glory, but it can be part of the supply chain or ecosystem, and it can still play a role. The public and private sectors are now working together to rebuild. The Japanese government has launched huge subsidy programs to attract investment. TSMC is now building fab in Kumamoto with strong support from Tokyo. Micron is expanding in memory production in Hiroshima. A new company called Rapidus, supported by the government, government and big Japanese firm is trying to develop cutting-edge 2nm chips by working with IBM. Why all these efforts? Because semiconductors are now seen as a national security asset. The US-China rivalry has shown how important chip supply chains are. Japan does not want to depend only on Taiwan, Korea for advanced chip. Cutting-edge fabs need thousands of skilled engineers, and Japan will need to train and attract this workforce. The cost of new fabs is also very expensive, and unless Japan finds stable customers, utilization could be very low. But Japan has an advantage. It still controls many of the materials and equipment in the world needs. By combining this with the new fabs and partnership, Japan hopes to secure a strong position in the next era of semiconductors. Will Japan return to the top? Maybe not the same like before, but the industry has changed so much. Japan still can be a pillar of global semiconductor ecosystems, especially in materials, specialty chips, and as a safe location for new fabs. Japan can also be part of the Asian semiconductor ecosystem with strong technologies in certain niches. The story of Japan's semiconductor industry is a reminder as technology leadership is not permanent. It depends on constant investment, strategic decisions, and global geopolitics. Japan has shown to the world how to master manufacturing at scale. Now it faces the challenges of reinventing itself for a new age, and in this new age of AI, EV, and geopolitics, the world will be watching very closely. And thanks for watching. If you like the content like this, please don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, and see you in the next video. Bye.